You mean no one would dare stand up and say, my God, you're not going to sing a song at the end, are you?
Right.
Or not more of your damn heart.
Right.
But Shavroshkin and his people are now talking about a language called Old World. And Old World is the first language ever spoken on this planet by higher primates. Beyond Old World, there is inarticulate silence. And Old World is a 35,000-year-old language. How can we know such things? You have to push into the linguistic literature, and you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. But there are websites you can go to where people speak in Old World, and you can hear what it sounded like. And sounds like a bunch of really primitive people. Well, but as I lay in the tubs at Esalen, a vast vocabulary of subtle gradients of interpersonal states of angst, longing, need, rejection, triumph, and defeat are passed in front of me. And frankly, I'd rather read my manual on my hard disk sometimes. But I'm a tough nut to crack. I'm not proud of the fact that the highest I can get is to teach at Esalen. I'm not at all proud of the fact that that seems to be where I top out. Had I greater courage, I would go further. But I don't. So I'm hoping that you people, my graduate students, as it were, will sacrifice yourselves on the pyre of going further and report back.
The situation I described with these octopi was coastal, shallow water octopi, so-called circulittoral octopi, but they have also evolved into the depths, the so-called abyssal octopi that exist below 1,500 meters in the sea, where there is absolute darkness, and to carry their intention to communicate into that darkness over the past 700 million years, they have evolved phosphorescent organs and have covered themselves with lights, with eyelid-like membranes that can be rapidly blinked and flickered, so that when you descend into the abyss, you then see pure linguistic intentionality among the cephalopodia, because they have become what we aim to become under the wise leadership and stewardship of George Bush, namely 1,000 points of light. Is this guy for real? If I had 8 hands, I could really get gestural. A funny experience involving octopi. I know a woman, I'm sure she would not begrudge me this description of her. She is a very frank exhibitionist. I mean, this is the woman who at every party takes her clothes off and dances on the tabletops and so forth. She is an inveterate exhibitionist. She's totally frank about it. And I had been to the Monterey Aquarium and seen the octopus there. They have a giant octopus. Well, most of the time, this guy just hunkers low, and he's sort of off in a corner, one beady eye, checking you out. But, of course, because octopi have this mode of communication, they're very set up to respond to visual display. So this woman walked past this tank, and this octopus practically leaped into the air. It came down out of the tunnel, it was pressing against the glass, it was beating against the glass. And what it was one exhibitionist recognizing another. I mean, it was just clear across the species lines. The power of neurosis knows no barrier. Perhaps, as someone said, it sounds like megalomania to me, Martha. Yeah, well, as bandwidth expands, the web is going to become much more of an interactive and, as you say, virtual environment. And I'm learning all this stuff. This is where my heart is these days. I don't want to have to depend on other people to implement things for me. And I've discovered learning this software is like mental calisthenics. I mean, you really do get buffed up intellectually if you can run Ray Dream Designer and render 3D objects and embed them in VRML. It's a great way to relate to your children.
Yeah, because they're usually 3 steps ahead.
Right. One of the uses suggested for nanotechnology, somewhat facetiously, was that you could have these little electronic mites that you combed into your hair, and every day they would creep out to the end of each hair, measure its length, and cut it off. So you'd have a permanent haircut maintained by nanomites from Clairol.
Now, I've been accused of mysticism. And worse.
By magic.